So welcome back to the second lecture on research methodology. In this lecture we are going to basically discuss about literature review. Some of you probably are familiar with this idea that when we do a research, an essential component of research is doing literature review. So that is what basically today we are going to discuss and to see what is exactly literature review. So as you see,
basically discuss
as you see, I begin with what is literature. Now, literature is a collection on all the scholarly writings on a topic. The previous lecture we already discussed about the problem statement. A research problem, then you make a problem statement. A research problem or a problem statement is based on the topic that you have chosen. We will come back to the question of topic a little more in detail in the next lecture. Basically, a topic would imply, for example, you want to do the question of violence in human nature. Now, that is a topic. Now, how do you make it a research problem? How do you present it in the form of a problem statement is what we discussed in the last lecture. Now, you would like to know what are the literature available on this particular topic. The literature available would imply all the writings, particularly scholarly writings, that are available on this topic. Therefore, a literature is not once and for all fixed, static availability of source. Because the literature keeps growing, it continuously evolves. Because different people come up with different ideas. So it is not the same as 10 years ago. The topic today must have been discussed from another perspective and new literature may be available. So literature constantly evolves as network of ideas. Where do you find these ideas? At least there could be 4 sources where you could find this evolution of ideas on a given topic. You will find them in scholarly articles. They are published either in a collection of volumes or in reputed journals. You find them in books written by either individual author or multiple authors. Sometimes you may find some conference proceedings. A group of intellectuals come together and deliberate on a topic, and probably that is not published yet, but you may have a copy of it, the summary statement, or sometimes the actual presentations that they have made in the conference, you may have a copy of it, or even if it is published, then you will have it in the form of a book. You also may have people who have explored this particular topic as their research project, which you will find in their dissertations, normally a doctoral dissertation or a dissertation at the graduate level, master's. So these are some of the sources where you find the scholarly writings on this topic. So basically a literature is all kinds of scholarly writings on a particular topic, a topic that you would like to explore further. So therefore literature is a continuously evolving network of ideas. Now, it's important for us to understand what is research. We keep speaking about the literature review as an essential component of research. Now, think of it as an analogy. Sometimes, in your childhood, some people have this game. Somebody begins to whisper the beginning of a story, and then the next person continues that. And then if there are 10 people, it goes around and people keep adding to the story. Each person giving his or her own twist to the narrative. Now keep this as an analogy. Research can be considered like a chain story. One scholar begins to speak about a particular topic, but then he has not exhausted all the aspects of that topic. So another person who comes and reads this particular scholar, particular thinker, adds his bit to this topic. So that's another dimension to the topic. Then a third person comes, then fourth. People keep adding their own ideas on a given topic. But you add ideas to your topic based on what is already said. You do not start anything new in that sense. Already somebody has said, you develop that further. You develop it either in terms of affirming it and proceeding it further, or you change it, you refute it and take it further. So imagine it's like a chain story. Now, when we speak about the literature review, the existing literature, whether they are published in form of articles, whether they are published in the form of books or conference proceedings or dissertations, they are the story that are narrated so far. Now, this is where you would like to add your bit to the story. So the story is not complete. It can keep evolving. So no topic is exhausted fully. Every topic can be studied further, can be explored in a greater detail. But then it's important for you, before you can add your bit, you need to know what has been said so far. Where do you stand now, so that you can take it forward. And that is the reason why you need to do literature review. You cannot just start speaking about something without knowing what has been said so far. So it is very important for you to know where you stand before you can actually make a leap forward. Now therefore, reviewing a literature is like participating in a conversation. People have already been conversing with one another. The scholars have tried to connect themselves to one another by reading each other's articles. So they are connecting their ideas to the narrative that others are telling them. Narratives of the story, it's an analogy again, it's not the literal understanding of the story, a larger network. So how do I fit into this larger network? When you read somebody's work, you see, well, I have something to offer here. And then when somebody else reads your work, well, I have something to offer to this idea. So people keep building the blocks collectively. May not be at the same time, because literature evolves over a period of time. It can take generations. It's not that only people living at a particular time do that. So what you do is, by connecting yourself to this larger narrative, the larger building block, the larger network which is there, you are adding your own response to it. So what exactly is a literature review? Is your ability to discover the relationship between the different sources in the literature, the different articles or books that are published on the topic, and then your ability to connect your ideas to the already existing literature. So there are two things that are here. You need to discover the relationship between the different ideas of different people who are working on the same topic. And then you are also able to add your bit to that. That is what writing a literature review is all about. So therefore, it is very important for you to keep in mind, a literature review is not just summing up different articles randomly. No. The ability to write a good literature review is in discovering the relationship between the different articles and then adding your bit to that. It's not they are existing in isolation. Okay, now first I will speak about this article, you sum up some ideas, then you move on to the next. No, some people keep doing that. That's a very wrong approach. So why are we insisting on this literature review? What is its purpose? Irene L. Clark has this very powerful statement about the purpose of literature review. Its purpose is to show that the researcher or the writer has critically surveyed relevant literature on his or her topic in order to convince an intended audience that the topic is worth addressing. Again, there are two things here which are important. You need to have surveyed the relevant literature critically. Now, the word critically is something people very often misunderstand. Critically doesn't mean you have to find fault with something. That's a normal way in which people use. You are critical of something would mean, well, you always find fault with somebody. No, that's not the meaning here. When we speak in research language or in academics, critical would mean you are not merely restating what the author has been saying. You are raising certain questions, probing it, and also identifying what the author has missed out. We have a tendency normally to faithfully reiterate, restate what has already been said. Suppose somebody writes something on Heidegger. I know people will keep writing all that Heidegger has said. But then what is that you are finding it difficult to accept? What is it that you find that Heidegger could have developed in a different way? So there is a way in which you bring your world into the world of the author and try to resonate with it with the questions that you have within yourself. Otherwise, you'll be merely restating the ideas of somebody, which is not at all a research. Well, that at best shows that you have tried to understand the author. That is good for a coursework, but not for a research work. So it is important that you critically survey relevant literature. So you are not merely repeating what the authors have said. You appropriate what they have said, but with certain questions that you have in your mind, and try to see whether that literature answers your question or it doesn't answer. What are things it could have done in order to answer your question, and so on and so forth. There is also a second aspect. It's not only to critically survey relevant literature, but also you have to convince the audience or the readers that this topic still needs to be explored. Otherwise, it is not worth. So what you need to do is, well, this topic has been studied in this way and this way and this way. There are certain areas of convergence between this and this authors on this point. Here they disagree. But there are issues that both of them have overlooked, and then I would like to bring in my ideas here. Now you are trying to convince me why you want to study this topic. If everything has been said by everybody, you have nothing new to add, it is not worth studying. The research paper is something that you would like to contribute to something. Therefore, you need to convince me that this topic is worth pursuing, worth addressing. In order to do that, you have to critically survey the relevant literature and then show how you are going to fill the gap, the research gap, by adding your own ideas to this existing literature. That is the purpose of literature review. Now let us look what are the reasons for literature review. Reasons are very practical ones. Because in order to do your research, in the first place, as I told you, you should know what is written already on this topic. So, literature review allows you to know what has already been studied, written on this particular topic. Another practical reason is that it also helps you to have mastery over a particular topic or a subject. So you can also show that I have mastered this by extensively studying the literature that are available on this particular subject. And the third practical reason is you can now locate your own research within the existing body of literature. So your literature somehow fits well within the already researched topic. So it cannot somehow stand in isolation, it cannot stand apart, it should somehow find its way within this available existing literature. So there are three practical reasons. You come to know what is already said in this about this topic, you also gain mastery over that subject, then again you are able to situate your own research within the already existing literature. I can tell you this, however simple it may sound, I have tried to make it sound very simple. But unless you start doing, you would not understand the difficulty involved. It can be extremely challenging and powerfully intimidating. Doing a literature review is not easy. In fact, if you have done your literature review well, 50% of your research work is already done, honestly, or even more. This is one of the most crucial aspects, and it is not a very easy thing to do. But you need to get started somewhere. You cannot sit and whine about it, saying, well, it's too complex, too difficult, and so on. And believe me, you will learn to do your research only by actually doing it. No matter how much I tell you, these are some of the tips, you will never be able to master it. It is something like learning to swim. I can give you any number of theoretical lectures on that. But that is not going to help you unless you jump into your pool and start struggling. Then you figure a way out to manage to get out of the pool. That is how you start to learn swimming. For that matter, anything. When you were kids, you started learning cycling, right? I don't think anybody gave you a theoretical lecture on that. Somebody put you on the cycle and said, well, I'll hold you, don't worry, and so on. At one point in time, they leave the hands, and then you find yourself all by yourself, and then a couple of times you fall, then slowly you kind of try to know how to balance things. Now this is pretty much the same, not in terms of a practical skill, but of academic skill. But you need to get started somewhere. Where do you start? Writing a good literature review presupposes that you have chosen the right topic. Now, how do you choose the right topic? You need to choose a topic which is not exhaustively studied. So you see, there is nothing more can be said. You don't choose a topic. Nor do you choose a topic where very limited literature is available. So it is important that when you choose a topic, you choose the right topic, explore it carefully, and then focus on the important aspects of the topic. So choosing, exploring, and focusing on the essentials of the topic is a key to get the literature review started on the right foot. Then you need to collect sources, information. Now, this is the topic now I am fascinated about. I have heard something about it. Perhaps I have read a couple of things about it casually, may not be seriously. Now I'd like to explore more. You need to look for article database. A few days ago, the librarian has organized, JDV librarian has organized a webinar on how to use journals from, articles from ATLA or Philosophy and Religion, the EBSCO. You have a database. EBSCO is a database. Now that is an article database. So there are various ways. I'm sure you now attended the webinar. If you didn't do it, please ask others who attended it. And then everybody from JDV has an access to EBSCO, which JDV subscribes. So therefore, you need to learn how to make use of that. So you need to go and browse and look for the topics, what is written there, what are the available sources. This is called as article database. There are many databases. JDB offers you this database. There is also something called JSTOR and many other things. So what is available to us is EBSCO, so you can start there. Then you also can look at the library catalog. Again, JDB has its library catalog on JDB's website online, that is OPAC. You can go to the website and find that out. What are the sources available? You will find at least what the library has on that. If you are here, of course, you will go and borrow that book. If not, you will have to contact the librarian whether a certain aspect of it, whether it can be made, e-copy can be available, so on, if you are doing research. There are also other things like Google Scholar. Now, modern times, people make use of a lot of such online portals like Google Scholar, where you will find a lot of information about what are the articles and the books published on this topic. So that is basically to collect information on them. You may not get hold of that actual work, but then you know these things are, and a small summary of that will be there, so you know whether it is worth that you get a copy of it, whether you subscribe to that, whether you can order and get a copy and things like that, you do a real research. The third aspect of it in writing a review, literature review, is you start reading. Now I will discuss extensively about this reading aspect. How do you take notes? How do you identify assumptions? How do you identify arguments in another lecture? But one of the key things that you need to keep in mind is every time when you read, always take notes. Your memory is not 100% foolproof of storing everything that you have read. It may be there, but it may be dormant. It may not be immediately available to you when you actually need it. We may think at this point in time when you are reading, these ideas are very clear to you in your mind, but it is likely you will forget it over a period of time. So it is important you take notes. Now, in the olden times, we didn't have all this modern gadgets to take notes. We had to write with pencil or pen on a sheet of paper or a notebook. Today, I got all kinds of apps for taking notes, whether it is in the mobile or in the laptop. You find out what suits you the best. Always keep your notes organized in a safe way in a particular folder. So anytime you can go back, retrieve it when you need them actually. While reading, again, you keep shaping your ideas. It's not that you take notes just one after another, but then every time when you read something new, your ideas also get enlarged. They get shaped. And it is important that those insights are also somehow noted down. Otherwise, you'll miss that. Sometimes we get wonderful insights when we are reading something. It's not that the book says it, but precisely because we have a certain question already when we are reading the book, we find, well, I find suddenly some kind of, I get some insight. So note it down. So this is what I mean by shaping the ideas. Your own ideas get shaped in terms of the insights that you get, a new original idea that emerges from within you. Note that down. Also, it is important that you keep track of citations, because later on when you convert it into a real scholarly paper, you need to acknowledge these ideas belong to whom originally. So there are various ways in which it is done. I am not going to extensively the technical aspect, but there are various softwares like RefWorks, EndNote, Zotero, etc., where you can keep track of the citations. You can use this software and then keep adding the citations with the proper reference, so it remains there. Anytime you want, you can retrieve it. At this time, I am not expecting you to do that, but it may be important that you note down just normally. If you are using a laptop or any other app, just note down this idea is taken from this book by this author, published this year. At least this basic information, if you keep adding every time when you take notes, that should be enough at this time. Later on when you do your master's research and so on, that time probably you can use any of these softwares for the documentation. So these four aspects are important when you start the literature review. Now let us look at the steps that are involved in reviewing a literature. The first thing is have a general understanding of the significant literature. When I speak about a general understanding, basic information like who is the author, what is his background, which year did he write this, what is the context in which he wrote it, so what was the question that he was trying to respond to and how did he try to respond to that, what is the method he uses, how does he present his arguments, what are the findings that he arrives at the end. These are some other things, general overview of a significant literature. So you cannot just read something without having this particular background. Where do you get it? You Google it, you get it anywhere for that matter today. Those days we had to consult an encyclopedia. Today all this abundant information is available on internet. Then when you start reading the literature, that particular article or a book, pay attention to the key concepts. The authors use some concepts as fundamental to develop their ideas. Without these concepts, their ideas really don't prevail. So what are those concepts? Try and understand what kind of concepts these people are, that particular author is using. Try to describe that particular article you are reading and try to summarize it. Try to look for the major ideas. That's what I mean by summarize. Then critically evaluate the arguments. Especially note what are the strengths of the arguments. We'll come to that a little later because this is important when you do philosophy. What are the strengths of this argument? What are the weaknesses of this argument? Now that you have read, you are reading individual articles. Now you have read one. You are reading the second one. Already when you are reading the second one, you try with that. I find some of them.
Hello, Father. Your mic is muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I think there was a technical error. So I will come back to this. Steps involved in reviewing. It is important that you need to have the overview of significant literature. Overview of significant literature means certain background information of who wrote it, what is the context in which he wrote it, and what are the major ideas that are prevalent in the time when he wrote it, etc. That will be very helpful. Then highlight the key concepts the author is using. When we say key concepts, these concepts are so fundamental for that particular idea to be developed. Without these concepts, these ideas do not prevail. The ideas proposed by the author, they don't stand. It's also important you try to summarize the articles, looking for major ideas. Then you critically evaluate the arguments that are presented by the author. When you evaluate, you look for the strengths of the argument and you look for the weakness of the argument. We will come back to that a little later when we actually do the, take a particular literature and study, and then I will give some exercise on that, how you identify an argument and how do you find whether it is a strong argument or a weak argument. It's unfortunate a course like logic should have been before this, because in logic you normally do all this argument stuff, but even if it comes later I can give some idea about argument when you do logic actually relate to that. You also need to look at, now that not only one article you have read, you keep reading different articles. Now try and see whether you can find relationship between these different articles. There are different sources that you are working with, whether you can find some relation between these sources that you are reading. Also, it is important that you identify what are the major themes and concepts that different authors are using. Where do they converge? What are the major points where they have something in common? Then you also look for the disagreements they have. On what points do they disagree? And that is also known as the identifying the research gap. Not only the disagreements, but they have overlooked something. Now you try to put together all these ideas so that you can now convert it into something new. You make your own idea based on your readings. What would be a good literature review? LR stands for literature review. A good literature review must be focused. It should be speaking only about the ideas that are directly related to the topic, or it are closely related to the topic. You cannot go about talking all other things. It's a waste of time. That is not at all focused. A good literature review is focused. You speak about the ideas that are directly pertinent to the topic that you are exploring. A good literature review must be concise or precise. It must be to the point. It is not, telling different stories around that. It's like some of you, not you guys, but some students, they tend to, when you ask a question, instead of writing to the point, they will keep narrating all kinds of useless things. It's like, filling the pages. You don't need to do that. You only need to answer the question. A good literature review must be logical. When we speak about logical, it progresses in a smooth way. You must be able to see the relation between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. In fact, you must be able to see the relation between one sentence to the next sentence, one idea to the next idea. There is a smooth transition from one to another. It cannot sound completely unrelated. A good literature review must be well developed. You cannot leave it, half explored. Never tell a story just halfway through and leave it. It cannot be half told. It has to be fully told. A good literature review is also integrative. By integrative, what I mean here is, how does it contribute to your own research you are undertaking now? Finally, and most importantly, a good literature review must be current, up to date. You must show that you are knowledgeable about the most recent works that are published on this topic. When you are writing a topic like violence, you cannot only talk about literature that are available in 17th, 18th centuries. No, not only just 21st century, but last year, a few months before, what are the scholarly journals, articles speak about violence in human nature? So that is important. It is to be up to date. You need to learn to avoid some basic pitfalls, mistakes, some of the things that you might do it in a wrong way. The first thing is, you cannot make vague statement, or you cannot make inappropriate generalization. In our everyday language, we keep using this. We make generalization very inappropriately. We don't even think about it. We say, well, all these men folk are like this, all women are like this. But that's inappropriate generalization. Or even if we speak about a particular group of people, oh, they are like this. You came to experience a couple of them and then you want to decide all of them are like that. That is inappropriate generalization. You cannot give insufficient information. Half truth is nothing but a lie. People sometimes conveniently give insufficient information so that they can get away with it. And that is nothing but a lie. Do not provide insufficient information. Always provide the complete and the total information. Third, do not use irrelevant source. Now, this I need to underline even specifically. When we are discussing a particular topic in a particular discipline, unless you want to do it in an interdisciplinary manner, do not quote from thinkers who do not come under that discipline. Now, however inspirational that idea may be, but that person is not someone who has extensively done a research within that discipline on that topic. So it's a very, very wrong to give irrelevant source. I mean, that is not relevant. That source is not relevant for our purpose of research here. That may be relevant elsewhere, but not for the purpose of our study here. You cannot neglect contrary opinions. In order to make your research into a nice synthesis of collection of ideas, people tend to ignore or overlook people who have said otherwise than what you think is what you would like to hold on to. Of course, as I told you, you cannot omit the most recent literature. That would be catastrophic, because the most recent literature has bring in a new dimension. It has also moved away from the story that was originally said. Now, you cannot just ignore it and go back to the story 4 people, 5 people have said before this particular person has narrated. You remember the analogy of the story? It's a continuous chain. So it is important that who has spoken before you, just recently before you. So otherwise you will be taking the research backwards, not forwards. Some of the common mistakes that people make in research, in my experience, people tend to rely exclusively on secondary sources. If you want to understand the freedom according to Sartre, you should read Sartre first. You can also read others who have commented on this idea of freedom. But you cannot only build your arguments based on what others have said on Sartre's idea of freedom. Here's an example. Now, if you don't know, Sartre is a French philosopher of 20th century. So, that's an example I give, but don't worry about the example. What is important is you need to read the original source, the primary source, not just the secondary source. Secondary sources are to be read, but not only them. You cannot research on a topic which is too broad or too narrow. If it is too broad, then you will never, get through it. It's difficult because it's too much for you to do a research. But it cannot be too narrow. If it is too narrow, you have hardly anything to say about it. So it should be sufficient. It should be neither narrow nor broad. So it should be something that is of in between. Some people tend to, when they do literature review, they only try to look at what was the conclusion the author make, which you need to know, of course. But it's also important, how does he arrive at the conclusion? What arguments does this person make? What are the methods this person uses in order to arrive at this conclusion? You have to pay attention to those factors as well. These are some of the common mistakes people do in writing a literature review. So these are some of the ideas that I have about the literature review. I do not claim that I have exhausted all the ideas, but nevertheless it gives a fairly good view about what we have been saying. It is important that you need to learn to write a good literature review. All of you will be writing a paper, not this year, next year. So you need to keep this in mind when you write your paper. A research paper you will be writing next year. But this is the base. So do not now think, this is one course you can forget and get away with it. And this is what you will be making use of it when you are writing a research paper next year. Now, as part of this course, I may not be expecting you to write a paper, but some aspects of it I will try to get it done as part of your assessment. So